Hi, welcome to part 2 of the Multiverse Saga. Now in this video we're going to come back to our main MCU sacred timeline as we continue to journey with characters that we know and love, such as Doctor Strange, Hawkeye, Nick Fury and Thor. Along the way we're going to meet some new characters such as Moon Knight, She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel. Now before we begin, may I remind you that there will be spoilers, and it will take you approximately 48 hours and 20 minutes to complete part 2 of the Multiverse Saga. So, strap in, grab some popcorn and let's get started. First, we're going to watch Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now this film takes place towards the later end of 2024 as Doctor Strange and Wong mentions the events of Spider-Man No Way Home to America Chavez. This film also serves as a continuation of WandaVision, as we see Scarlet Witch continue to search for her twin boys using the Darkhold. As Doctor Strange and America Chavez travel the multiverse to Earth 838, we discovered that our Earth has been designated as 616. We're introduced to a group known as the Illuminati, where if you've done all of your homework and watched all of the side quests, you will know each and every one of these characters. So let's get into them now. First, we're introduced to this universe's version of Captain Carter, whom we met in the first season of What If. We are then introduced to Black Bolt, where if you completed side quest A, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. saga, Black Bolt was introduced in the show Inhumans. We then get the reveal of Captain Marvel, where we see Maria Rambeau possess superhuman abilities instead of her best friend Carol Danvers. We are then presented with the smartest man alive, Dr. Reed Richards, also known as Mr. Fantastic. Now if you completed side quest E, the Marvel Legacy Saga, you would have already met two versions of Mr. Fantastic. And last but not least, we see Professor Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart from the original X-Men trilogy. Now if you listen carefully, you'll notice the theme song to the 90s X-Men animated series play during his introduction. He's also wearing the same outfit as Professor X did in that same show. By the end of the movie we learn about the event known as Incursions, the colliding of two universes, and the end credits scene reveals the character known as Clea, the niece of Dormammu. Taking place during the holiday season of 2024, we're going to watch the series Hawkeye, as we see Clint Barton spend some time with his family after the events of Avengers Endgame. We're introduced to Kate Bishop and her dog Lucky, Maya Lopez also known as Echo, and Jack Duquesne also known as the Swordsman. We see the return of Yelena Belova, whom we last saw all the way back in the Black Widow film, as well as Wilson Fisk, also known as the Kingpin from the Daredevil series. Next, we're going to watch Echo. This series takes place 5 months after the finale of Hawkeye, placing this show in the year 2025. We see the return of Wilson Fisk and we get a great cameo from Daredevil. By the end of the season we see Wilson Fisk take interest in running for mayor of New York. Next we're going to watch Moon Knight, as we are introduced to a character by the name of Stephen Grant. Now this show is quite standalone and the only connection to the wider MCU is an ad on a bus for the Global Repatriation Council seen from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is the first time we're introduced to Egyptian gods such as Khonshu, Amit and Taweret, and the character of Layla becomes the comic book character known as the Scarlet Scarab. Following on from the theme of gods, we are going to be introduced to a few more in Thor, Love and Thunder. Here we're introduced to Zeus, Hercules, Baal the god of dumplings and the villain known as Gord the god butcher. This film takes place 8 years, 7 months and 6 days after Jane and Thor broke up, which we heard about back in Thor Ragnarok, which took place in 2017. We see the return of Jane Foster as the mighty Thor, King Valkyrie, Korg, Darcy Lewis and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Next, we're going to watch She-Hulk Attorney at Law, where we are introduced to Bruce Banner's cousin, Jennifer Walters. We see the return of Wong as he mentions the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, and we see leaked footage of his fight with the Abomination, which took place the year prior in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Also returning, we have Bruce Banner and the Abomination, as well as Matt Murdock, also known as Daredevil. Now if you listen carefully, you will hear the theme song to his own show, which we saw in the Defenders Saga, play here as well. We're introduced to an array of new characters such as Titania, the Wrecking Crew, Mr. Immortal and Leapfrog. There is also the mention of a Lady Thor, which we saw in Thor Love and Thunder, and we are introduced to Hulk's son, Scar. Now like Deadpool, She-Hulk is a character known to break the fourth wall, and you'll see her do that here. And blink and you'll miss it, but we finally get an acknowledgement of a Celestial coming out of the ocean, which we saw back in Eternals. Now the next three properties, Ms. Marvel, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, all share a common thread, which is Scott Lang becoming a celebrity. In Ms. Marvel, we are introduced to Kamala Khan, where she recounts the events of Avengers Endgame through her extensive research, listening to Scott Lang interviews. We're introduced to a new artifact in the form of a bangle, which grants Kamala Khan special abilities. We're presented with new characters such as Kamran and Red Dagger, and by the end of the season, it is revealed that Kamala is a mutant. Now if you listen carefully, you will notice the 90s X-Men animated series theme song play during this reveal. Now the end credit scene sees the return of Captain Marvel, which will be explored further in the film The Marvels. Taking place in 2025, we are going to watch Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which takes place 1 year after the death of King T'Challa. We see the return of Shuri, Okoye, Nakia and Everett Ross, and returning from Black Widow and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. We're introduced to new characters such as Namor and Ironheart, and we get two neat Easter eggs seen on a news scroll on CNN, which talks about New Asgard signing treaties, which we saw in Thor Love and Thunder, and Scott Lang promoting his new book, Look Out for the Little Guy. Next, we're going to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, as we see Scott Lang promoting his new book by reading it to a group of children. We see the return of Hank Pym, Hope and Janet Van Dyne, as well as Cassie Lang, who later becomes the hero known as Stature. We see a variant of He Who Remains from Loki Season 1 in the form of Kang the Conqueror. The end credits scene teases the events of Loki Season 2, and we get another variant of He Who Remains, Victor Timely. Taking place 30 years after Captain Marvel, we are going to watch Secret Invasion, as we see Nick Fury return from space after seeing him in the end credits scene of Spider-Man Far From Home. We see the return of Talos and his daughter Gaia, as well as Maria Hill and Rhodey. We're introduced to a new character known as Gravik, and this show reveals that several characters that we know from the MCU have been shape-shifting Skrulls. Following Nick Fury from Secret Invasion and from the end credit scene of Ms. Marvel, we're going to watch The Marvels. Here we see the return of Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau, whom we last saw back in WandaVision, and Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel. We're introduced to a new villain known as Dar-Ben, and we see a comic book accurate version of the Supreme Intelligence. By the end of this film, Monica Rambeau finds herself in an alternate universe, where we are introduced to the X-Man known as Beast, played by the same actor Kelsey Grammer that we saw from the original X-Men trilogy. Next, we're going to watch Ironheart. After spending some time with the Wakandans in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, we see the return of Riri Williams with a new Ironheart suit. Throughout the show, we hear name drops of Kaecilius and Dormammu, and we are introduced to new characters such as Natalie, Ezekiel Stane, The Hood, and Mephisto. Next, we're going to watch Werewolf by Night, an hour-long special which focuses on the character of Jack Russell, also known as Werewolf by Night. We get the introduction of Elsa Bloodstone and Man-Thing, and while this special presentation was originally released in black and white, you may also watch this in colour. Taking place during the Christmas season of 2025, we're going to watch Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. We see the return of the Guardians of the Galaxy from when we last saw them in Thor Love and Thunder, and you'll notice that Groot has now grown a little bit bigger. Concluding the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, we're going to watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Set in 2026, we learn about the tragic origin of Rocket, and we are introduced to new characters such as the High Evolutionary and Adam Warlock. We see the return of Ayesha, and by the end of the film, we get a very different team of Guardians. Taking place 3 years after the events of WandaVision, we're going to watch Agatha all along. As Agatha breaks free from Wanda's spell, we see her and her coven unlock the mysteries of the Witch's Road. We're introduced to Billy Kaplan, also known as Wiccan, as well as the entity known as Death. Congratulations, you've just completed part 2 of the Multiverse Saga. Now we are going to take a bit of a break because you've just watched a lot of content. But whenever you're ready, you may go ahead and start part 3 of the Multiverse Saga, starting with Loki Season 2. So, I'll see you all in the next video.